Cordelia Ashvale examined the wax seal on the letter with narrowed eyes, her fingertips tracing the impression of the raven crest. The library of Thornbridge Manor was silent, except for the crackle of the fire, and in that silence she noticed what no one else had. The seal was wrong. The depth of the impression was uneven, the wax a shade too warm, and the paper beneath it bore no indentation from a proper signet ring. Someone had forged correspondence from Lord Ravencrest, and if the immortal lord attended the gathering this letter invited him to, he would walk directly into a trap. She had been cataloguing the late Lord Thornbridge's correspondence for 3 weeks now, ever since her uncle's death had left the estate in chaos and her own position precariously dependent on the new heir's charity. Once, she had been Miss Cordelia Ashvale of Ashvale Park, with a dowry of £15,000 and invitations to every ball in 3 counties. Then her father's partner had absconded with their fortune, her father had died of apoplexy, and she had discovered that genteel poverty meant accepting positions as companion, governess, or in this case, archivist to distant relations who viewed her as barely more than a servant. But poverty had sharpened her eye for detail. She had learned to notice the quality of paper, the authenticity of seals, the subtle differences between genuine correspondence and forgery. And this letter, tucked among her uncle's papers and dated only 5 days ago, was absolutely a forgery. The letter invited Lord Ravencrest to a private gathering at Moorfield House on the 23rd of November, tomorrow night. It referenced a matter of mutual concern regarding the Brotherhood of the Silver Dawn and was signed with her uncle's name. But her uncle had been dead for a month, and Cordelia knew, from whispered conversations among the servants and carefully worded warnings in her uncle's private journals, that Lord Ravencrest was not what he seemed, that he was one of the blood-cursed, that the Brotherhood of the Silver Dawn had been hunting his kind for centuries. She held the letter closer to the candle flame, studying the handwriting. It was a skilled imitation of her uncle's hand, but the flourish on the capital T was wrong, and the spacing between words too uniform. Whoever had written this had practiced, but not perfectly. The door to the library opened without warning. Cordelia spun, clutching the letter to her chest, and found herself facing a man she had never seen before. He was tall, dressed in black evening clothes that seemed to absorb the firelight, and his eyes were the color of amber held up to flame. His face was beautiful in the way that ancient marble was beautiful, cold, perfect, and utterly inhuman. "You are not Lord Thornbridge," he said. His voice was soft, but it seemed to fill the room. "Lord Thornbridge is dead," Cordelia replied, lifting her chin. "I am his niece, Miss Cordelia Ashvale, and you, I presume, are Lord Ravencrest." A muscle twitched beneath his left eye across his face. Surprise, perhaps, or calculation. "You know who I am." "I know what you are," she corrected, "and I know that someone is trying to lure you into a trap." She held out the letter. "This correspondence is forged. My uncle has been dead for a month. Whoever wrote this wants you at Moorfield House tomorrow night, and I suspect the Brotherhood will be waiting." He moved forward with a speed that should have been impossible, crossing the room in the space between one heartbeat and the next. He took the letter from her hand, his fingers cold as winter stone when they brushed against hers. She forced herself not to flinch. He examined the seal, then the paper, then looked at her with those burning eyes. "How did you know it was forged?" "The wax is too warm. The impression is uneven. The paper shows no indentation from a proper seal, and the handwriting, while skilled, has errors in the flourishes." She met his gaze steadily. "I have been cataloguing my uncle's correspondence. I know his hand." "Why tell me?" His voice was dangerously soft. "Your uncle was a member of the Brotherhood. He dedicated his life to hunting creatures like me. Why would his niece warn me?" "Because I do not believe in murder by deception," Cordelia said flatly. "If someone wishes to kill you, let them face you honestly. Traps are the weapons of cowards." She paused, then added, "And because my uncle's journals suggest that you and he had reached an understanding in his final years, that he no longer viewed you as a monster to be destroyed, but as a person to be negotiated with." Lord Ravencrest studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, and it was not a comforting expression. "You are either very brave or very foolish, Miss Ashvale." "I am neither," she replied. "I am practical. And practically speaking, if you walk into that trap and are destroyed, the Brotherhood will grow bolder. More of your kind will die, and the fragile peace my uncle was trying to build will shatter." She straightened her shoulders. "I am also selfish. The new Lord Thornbridge is my cousin Gerald, who has made it clear that he views me as an inconvenient dependent. If the Brotherhood's actions bring scandal to this house, he will cast me out without a reference. I cannot afford that." "Honest, at least," Ravencrest murmured. He folded the letter carefully and slipped it into his coat. "Who else knows about this correspondence?" "No one. I found it this evening while sorting papers. I was going to burn it, but then I realized—" She hesitated. "Realized what?" "That you might want to know who is trying to kill you." His smile widened slightly. "I know who is trying to kill me, Miss Ashvale. The Brotherhood has been trying for 300 years. The question is which member of the Brotherhood is foolish enough to forge your uncle's seal and think I would not notice." "Then why did you come here tonight?" Cordelia asked. "If you suspected a trap—" "I came because I received a letter from Lord Thornbridge 3 days ago, inviting me to discuss his archives." He drew another letter from his coat. "This one, I believe, is genuine. The seal is perfect. The handwriting is flawless, and it was delivered by your uncle's own courier, whom I have known for 15 years." Cordelia took the letter, her hands trembling slightly. The seal was indeed perfect. The raven crest pressed deep into dark blue wax, the paper beneath it bearing the clear indentation of a heavy signet ring. The handwriting was her uncle's, unmistakable in every detail. "But my uncle has been dead for a month," she whispered. "Then someone wrote this letter before he died and arranged for its delayed delivery," Ravencrest said. "Or someone in this house has access to his genuine seal and is a far better forger than the one who created the Moorfield House invitation." Cordelia's mind raced. The seal would have been buried with him, unless— She looked up sharply. "Unless someone took it from his body before the funeral, or from his study before the solicitors arrived. Who had access to his study in the days after his death?" "Everyone," Cordelia said bitterly. "Gerald, the solicitors, the servants, myself. The house was in chaos. Anyone could have entered and taken anything." "Then we have a problem," Ravencrest said softly. "Someone in this house is working with the Brotherhood. Someone who had access to your uncle's seal, his papers, and his knowledge of my movements." His amber eyes fixed on her. "Someone who might have known I would come here tonight." The fire popped loudly in the silence that followed. Cordelia felt ice slide down her spine. "You think I think you are either the most honest woman I have ever met, or the most skilled liar." He moved closer, and she could feel the cold radiating from him like winter fog. "Which is it, Miss Ashvale?" "I am honest," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "And I can prove it. The forged letter references the 23rd of November, tomorrow night. If I were working with the Brotherhood, I would have destroyed that letter and said nothing. You would have walked into the trap at Moorfield House, and I would have been safely here, above suspicion." "Unless you are playing a deeper game," Ravencrest said, "warning me of one trap while preparing another." "Then search this house," Cordelia said sharply. "Search my rooms, my correspondence, my belongings. You will find nothing connecting me to the Brotherhood except my uncle's blood." She stepped closer to him, anger overriding caution. "I am a woman who has lost everything, Lord Ravencrest. My fortune, my position, my future. I have no power, no influence, and no prospects. The only thing I have left is my integrity, and I will not have you question it without evidence." For a long moment he simply looked at her. Then the angle of his jaw softened, just slightly. You remind me of someone, he said quietly. Someone I knew a very long time ago. I am not interested in your nostalgia, Cordelia replied. I am interested in finding out who is trying to kill you and why they are using my uncle's name to do it. Why do you care? Because they forged his seal, she said fiercely. They used his name, his reputation, his memory as a weapon. And whatever my uncle was, whatever he deserves better than to be made a puppet for someone else's murder plot. Ravencrest studied her for another moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, Miss Ashvale. I will accept your help. But understand this. If you betray me, there is nowhere you can hide that I will not find you. I do not betray people, Cordelia said coldly. Now, shall we determine who in this house is working with the Brotherhood, or shall we stand here trading threats all night? A genuine smile crossed his face, brief and startling. You have your uncle's spine, I see. Very well. Show me his study. Show me where the papers were kept, who had access, and what else might have been taken. Cordelia led him through the darkened corridors of Thornbridge Manor, acutely aware of his presence behind her, silent, cold, and utterly inhuman. The study was on the second floor, a large room lined with books and dominated by a massive oak desk. She lit the lamps with steady hands, then moved to the desk. This is where I found the forged letter, she said, indicating a stack of correspondence on the left side of the desk. It was mixed in with routine business, bills, invitations, letters from tenants, as if someone had slipped it into the pile, hoping it would be overlooked. But you did not overlook it. I notice things, Cordelia said simply. It is a skill one develops when one's survival depends on understanding the people around them. She opened the desk's top drawer. The seal should have been here. My uncle kept it in this drawer, wrapped in velvet. After his death, Gerald ordered everything of value catalogued and locked away, but the seal was already gone. When did Gerald discover it was missing? He did not. I did, 3 days ago. I mentioned it to him, and he said it must have been buried with my uncle. She met Ravencrest's eyes. But I attended the funeral. I saw my uncle's body. There was no seal on his person. Did you tell Gerald this? No, Cordelia admitted. By then I had begun to suspect that something was wrong, that someone in this house was not what they seemed. Ravencrest moved to the window, looking out over the darkened grounds. Your cousin Gerald, what do you know of his associations? Very little. He inherited unexpectedly. My uncle's son died 10 years ago, and Gerald was the next male heir. He arrived from London 3 days after my uncle's death, took possession of the house, and has been here ever since. She paused. He has had visitors, men I do not recognize. They meet in the drawing room with the door closed. Describe them. Cordelia thought carefully. 3 men, all between 30 and 50 years of age, well-dressed but not fashionably so. They speak quietly and leave before dinner. One of them carries a silver-topped walking stick. Another has a scar across his left hand, visible when he removes his gloves. The Brotherhood, Ravencrest said softly. The silver walking stick is their symbol. The scarred hand belongs to Nathaniel Graves, one of their most zealous hunters. He turned from the window. Your cousin is not merely associated with the Brotherhood, Miss Ashvale. He is one of them. Cordelia felt the room tilt slightly. Then the forged letter was created here, in this house, using your uncle's stolen seal. And the genuine letter I received was also sent from here to lure me into a place where Gerald and his associates could observe me, learn my habits, and plan their attack. His voice was cold as winter. Your uncle protected me, Miss Ashvale, and his nephew is using that protection as bait. Then you cannot go to Moorfield House tomorrow night, Cordelia said urgently. You must leave. Go somewhere safe. There is nowhere safe, Ravencrest interrupted. Not while the Brotherhood knows where I am and has access to your uncle's correspondence. They know my associates, my properties, my movements. If I run, they will hunt me. If I hide, they will find me. He moved closer to her. But if I spring their trap, I might be able to end this. You will be killed. Perhaps, he said calmly. Or perhaps I will kill them first. I am not easy to destroy, Miss Ashvale, despite 3 centuries of attempts. This is madness, Cordelia said flatly. You are walking into an ambush. I am walking into an ambush with knowledge of its existence, Ravencrest corrected. That is a very different thing. He studied her face. But I will need help. Someone who can move freely in society, who can watch and listen and report what she learns. Someone the Brotherhood will not suspect. You want me to spy for you. I want you to survive, he said quietly. Because if Gerald discovers that you warned me, he will kill you. Not quickly, not cleanly, but as an example to anyone else who might think to betray the Brotherhood. He paused. Unless you are under my protection, unless it is known that you are mine. Cordelia stared at him. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that you become my companion, Ravencrest said. Publicly, obviously, and immediately. Tomorrow night, you will attend the gathering at Moorfield House on my arm. Gerald and his associates will see that you are no longer a dependent relation they can dispose of quietly. You will be the consort of an immortal lord, and touching you will mean war with me. That is insane, Cordelia whispered. I would be ruined. No respectable person would receive me. I would lose what little position I have left. You have no position, Ravencrest said bluntly. Gerald will cast you out within the month, with or without scandal. You know too much, you ask too many questions, and you have no one to protect you. He moved closer, his amber eyes burning. I am offering you protection, Miss Ashvale, and in return, you will help me destroy the men who murdered your uncle. My uncle died of heart failure. Your uncle died 3 days after he sent me a letter proposing peace between my kind and the Brotherhood, Ravencrest said softly. He died suddenly, unexpectedly, in perfect health, and his nephew, a known Brotherhood member, inherited everything. He let that sink in. Do you truly believe that was coincidence? Cordelia felt something crack inside her chest. You think Gerald killed him? I think someone did, and I think the same person who killed your uncle is now trying to kill me. He held out his hand. Help me prove it. Help me find justice for a man who tried to build peace, and I will give you something your society never will. A future. She looked at his outstretched hand, pale and cold and utterly inhuman. Every instinct she had been raised with screamed at her to refuse, to run, to preserve what little respectability she had left. But respectability had not saved her when her father's fortune vanished. It had not protected her when she was forced to accept charity from relatives who despised her. It had not given her power, or safety, or justice. And this creature, this immortal monster, was offering her all three. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, cold as death and strong as iron. Then we have an agreement, Miss Ashvale. Tomorrow night, you will be mine, and we will see who walks into whose trap. The next evening, Cordelia stood in her small room and stared at the gown that had been delivered that afternoon. It was deep burgundy silk, cut in the latest fashion, with black lace at the throat and sleeves. A note had accompanied it, written in an elegant hand. Wear this. I will call for you at 8 o'clock. R. She had not seen Ravencrest since their conversation in the study. He had left through the window, moving with impossible speed and silence, and she had returned to her room with her heart pounding and her mind racing. She had barely slept, turning over everything he had said, everything she had agreed to. Now, as she fastened the gown and arranged her hair, she tried not to think about what she was about to do. She tried not to think about Gerald's reaction when she appeared on Ravencrest's arm. She tried not to think about the Brotherhood, the trap, the danger. She tried not to think about the way Ravencrest had looked at her, as if she were someone he had lost long ago. At precisely 8 o'clock, there was a knock at her door. She opened it to find not Ravencrest, but Gerald, his face flushed with anger. What is the meaning of this? He demanded, thrusting a card at her. Lord Ravencrest has sent word that you are to accompany him to Moorfield House tonight. Have you lost your mind? I have accepted his invitation, Cordelia said calmly. As I am no longer a child, I do not require your permission. You are living under my roof. As an unpaid archivist, not as a dependent, she interrupted. You made that quite clear when I arrived, Gerald. I am an employee, not family, and employees are free to accept invitations as they choose. His face darkened. You will not go. I forbid it. You have no authority to forbid anything, Cordelia said. She stepped past him into the corridor, her heart hammering but her voice steady. Now, if you will excuse me, Lord Ravencrest is waiting. Gerald grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her flesh. Listen to me, you stupid girl. Ravencrest is dangerous. He is not what he seems. He is exactly what he seems, Cordelia said quietly. And so are you, Gerald. I know about the Brotherhood. I know about the forged letter, and I know that you are planning something tonight. She pulled her arm free. The question is, what will you do when your trap springs shut on empty air? His face went white. You told him. I warned him, Cordelia corrected. There is a difference. A trap is only effective when the prey does not know it exists. She smiled coldly. But I suspect you will discover that tonight. She walked away from him, down the stairs, her head high and her hands shaking. Ravencrest was waiting in the entrance hall, dressed in black evening clothes, his amber eyes glowing in the lamplight. He offered her his arm without a word, and she took it, feeling the cold strength of him through the fabric of his coat. They rode to Moorfield House in his carriage, a sleek black vehicle drawn by horses that moved too smoothly, too silently. Cordelia sat across from him, studying his face in the dim light. You are afraid, he said softly. I am terrified, she admitted. But I am also angry, and anger is more useful than fear. Your uncle said something similar once, Ravencrest murmured. He told me that fear makes men cruel, but anger makes them just. He looked at her. You truly do remind me of someone I loved a very long time ago. Is that why you are helping me? Cordelia asked. Because I remind you of her? No, he said quietly. I am helping you because you warned me when you had no reason to. Because you risked your safety for a stranger. Because you have integrity in a world that values only wealth and position. He paused. But I will not lie to you, Miss Ashvale. When I look at you, I see her face, and it complicates things. Who was she? A woman who died 300 years ago, Ravencrest said. A woman who saw what I was and loved me anyway. A woman who was murdered by men like your cousin, because she dared to stand between them and their prey. Cordelia felt something twist in her chest. I am not her. No, he agreed. You are not. You are sharper, angrier, more practical. You do not love me. You do not even trust me. You are helping me because it serves your interests, and I respect that. He leaned forward slightly. But I need you to understand something, Miss Ashvale. Tonight, when we walk into that house, you will be in danger, real danger. And if something happens, if the Brotherhood moves against you, I will protect you. Not because you remind me of her, but because you are you, and you deserve protection. She met his eyes. And if they move against you? Then you run, he said flatly. You do not try to help me. You do not try to fight. You run, and you do not stop until you are somewhere safe. That is not acceptable, Cordelia said. If we are doing this, we are doing it together. I will not abandon you to save myself. You will if I tell you to, Ravencrest said, his voice hard. I am 300 years old, Miss Ashvale. I have survived wars, plagues, and countless attempts on my life. I will survive this. But you are mortal and fragile, and if you die trying to save me, it will be for nothing. Then do not put me in a position where I have to choose, Cordelia said sharply. If you want my help, you will treat me as a partner, not as a damsel to be protected. I am not your lost love, Lord Ravencrest. I am a woman with a mind and a will of my own, and I will not be coddled. He stared at her for a long moment, then laughed, a genuine startled sound. "You are absolutely nothing like her," he said. "She was gentle and kind and far too forgiving. You are sharp as broken glass and twice as dangerous." He smiled. "I think I prefer you." Before Cordelia could respond, the carriage stopped. They had arrived at Moorfield House. The house was ablaze with light, and as Ravencrest helped her down from the carriage, Cordelia could see figures moving behind the windows. Too many figures, too many witnesses for a simple trap. "They have made this public," she murmured. "Why?" "Because they want to destroy me in front of society," Ravencrest said quietly. "They want to expose what I am, prove that monsters walk among them, and justify their crusade." He offered her his arm again. "Are you ready?" "No," Cordelia said honestly, "but I am here anyway." They walked into Moorfield House together, and every eye in the entrance hall turned to stare. Cordelia recognized several faces from her former life: Lady Pemberton, who had once invited her to tea; Lord Ashford, who had danced with her at her debut; Mrs. Whitmore, who had called her father a friend. They all looked at her now with shock and barely concealed horror. Gerald was there, standing near the fireplace with two other men. One carried a silver-topped walking stick. The other had a scarred left hand. "Lord Ravencrest," Gerald said, his voice carrying across the room. "How kind of you to accept our invitation." "I received two invitations," Ravencrest said pleasantly, "one genuine, one forged. I chose to honor the forgery, as it seemed more interesting." A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. Gerald's face tightened. "I do not know what you mean." "I mean that someone in this room used a stolen seal to forge correspondence from a dead man," Ravencrest said, his voice still pleasant, but his eyes cold as winter. "I mean that someone in this room is using Lord Thornbridge's name and reputation to lure me into a trap, and I mean that I am here to discover who." "You are mad," the man with the scarred hand said. "Lord Thornbridge was a respected member of society." "Lord Thornbridge was a member of the Brotherhood of the Silver Dawn," Ravencrest interrupted. "As are you, Mr. Graves. As is Gerald Thornbridge. As are half the men in this room." He looked around the assembled crowd. But Lord Thornbridge, in his final years, began to question the Brotherhood's methods. He began to wonder if creatures like me were truly monsters, or simply different, and he reached out to me, proposing peace. "Lies," Gerald spat. "My uncle would never—" "Your uncle sent me 3 letters," Ravencrest said calmly. "Letters proposing a treaty between my kind and the Brotherhood. Letters suggesting that perhaps 3 centuries of bloodshed was enough. Letters that would have ended your little crusade and made you all irrelevant." He smiled coldly. "And then, 3 days after the final letter was sent, your uncle died, very suddenly, very conveniently." The room exhaled in a collective hiss. Gerald's face went from red to white. "You are accusing me of murder." "I am stating facts," Ravencrest said. "Your uncle died. You inherited. And within days of taking possession of his house, you were meeting with known Brotherhood members and planning my destruction." He pulled the forged letter from his coat. "This letter, bearing your uncle's seal, invited me here tonight. But your uncle has been dead for a month, which means someone stole his seal and forged his signature. Someone who had access to his study, his papers, and his correspondence." "That proves nothing," Graves said, stepping forward. "You could have forged that letter yourself." "I could have," Ravencrest agreed, "but I did not, and I can prove it." He looked at Cordelia. "Miss Ashvale, would you be so kind as to tell these people what you found?" Cordelia stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "I found the forged letter 3 days ago while cataloging my uncle's papers. I also discovered that his seal was missing from his desk, though it was not buried with him. And I observed Mr. Gerald Thornbridge meeting with known Brotherhood members in secret." She looked directly at Gerald. "I warned Lord Ravencrest because I do not believe in murder by deception. If you wished to kill him, cousin, you should have challenged him openly." "You little traitor," Gerald hissed. "You have doomed yourself." "She has saved herself," Ravencrest interrupted, "because she is now under my protection, and anyone who harms her will answer to me." He looked around the room. "I came here tonight not to walk into your trap, but to expose it. You wanted to destroy me in front of society? Very well. Let society see what you truly are. Let them see that you murder your own family members when they dare to question your crusade. Let them see that you forge documents and lie and scheme, all in the name of righteousness." "We are protecting humanity," Graves shouted. "You are a monster. I am a creature who has lived for 3 centuries without killing a single innocent," Ravencrest said coldly. "Can you say the same, Mr. Graves? How many people have died in your crusade? How many innocents have you murdered because they stood between you and your prey?" The room was silent now, everyone staring at Graves, at Gerald, at the men who had planned this trap. And slowly, one by one, people began to step away from them. Lady Pemberton spoke first. "Lord Thornbridge was my friend," she said quietly. "If what Lord Ravencrest says is true, if Gerald murdered his own uncle—" "It is not true," Gerald said desperately. "My uncle died of heart failure." "Your uncle died 3 days after proposing peace with me," Ravencrest said, "and you inherited everything, his house, his fortune, his position, everything except his conscience." He turned to the crowd. "I am not asking you to trust me. I am asking you to question them, to ask why they meet in secret, to ask why they carry silver weapons, to ask why they are so desperate to destroy me that they would forge documents and plan murder in a crowded house." "Because you are evil," Graves said flatly. "Because you are a creature of darkness." "I am a creature of darkness who has just exposed your conspiracy in front of 50 witnesses," Ravencrest said. "And now you have a choice. You can attack me here, in front of all these people, and prove that you are the monsters. Or you can retreat, regroup, and accept that your trap has failed." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Graves turned and walked toward the door, his scarred hand clenched around his walking stick. Gerald followed, his face twisted with rage. One by one, the other Brotherhood members left, until only Ravencrest, Cordelia, and the shocked crowd remained. Lord Ashford was the first to speak. "Lord Ravencrest, I do not know what to say." "Say nothing," Ravencrest replied. "Simply remember what you saw here tonight. Remember that the Brotherhood is not what it claims to be, and remember that sometimes the monsters are not the ones you expect." He offered Cordelia his arm, and together they walked out of Moorfield House, leaving the whispers and shocked faces behind them. In the carriage, Cordelia finally allowed herself to shake. "That was insane," she whispered. "You could have been killed." "But I was not," Ravencrest said. "Because you warned me, because you stood beside me, because you were brave enough to speak the truth in front of people who would have destroyed you for it." He took her hand, his cold fingers gentle. "You saved my life tonight, Miss Ashvale, and I will not forget it." "What happens now?" Cordelia asked. "Gerald will not forgive this. The Brotherhood will not stop hunting you." "No," Ravencrest agreed. "But they will be more cautious, and they will know that I have allies, that I am not alone." He looked at her. "You cannot return to Thornbridge Manor. Gerald will kill you the moment you set foot in that house." "I have nowhere else to go," Cordelia said quietly. "You have me," Ravencrest said. "I own a house in London. It is yours if you want it. I will provide for you, protect you, and ask nothing in return except your continued honesty." He paused. "Unless you wish to return to society, to find a respectable position." "Society cast me out the moment my father lost his fortune," Cordelia said bitterly. "I have no interest in returning to people who measure worth in pounds and pedigree." She looked at him. "But I will not be your kept woman, Lord Ravencrest. If I accept your protection, I want a purpose. I want to help you, to work with you, to be useful." "You want to hunt the Brotherhood," he said, understanding dawning in his eyes. "I want justice for my uncle," Cordelia corrected, "and I want to stop them from murdering anyone else who dares to question their crusade." She squeezed his hand. "You said you needed someone who could move in society, who could watch and listen and report. I can be that person. I can help you build the peace my uncle wanted. Ravencrest studied her for a long moment, then smiled. You are remarkable, Miss Ashvale. Absolutely remarkable. He raised her hand to his lips, pressing a cold kiss to her knuckles. Very well. We will be partners. We will hunt the hunters, and we will finish what your uncle started. Partners, Cordelia agreed. Not protector and dependent, not lord and servant, partners. Partners, Ravencrest said softly, and in his amber eyes she saw something that might have been hope. 6 months later, Cordelia stood in the library of Ravencrest House in London, sorting through correspondence from informants across England. The Brotherhood had gone quiet after the disaster at Moorfield House, but she knew they were still out there, still planning, still hunting. But now, they were being hunted in return. She heard Ravencrest enter the room behind her, his footsteps silent as always. Any news? He asked. 3 more Brotherhood members have resigned, Cordelia reported, and Lord Ashford has written to say that he is considering your proposal for a treaty council. She turned to face him. It is working. Slowly, but it is working. Because of you, Ravencrest said. He moved closer, and she no longer flinched at his cold presence. She had grown used to it, even comfortable with it. You have done more in 6 months than I accomplished in 3 centuries. I had help, Cordelia said, a rather persistent immortal who refused to let me give up. He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his face. I told you once that you reminded me of someone I loved. I was wrong. You are nothing like her. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. You are fiercer, smarter, braver. You are entirely yourself. And I find that I prefer the reality to the memory. Cordelia felt her heart skip. What are you saying? I am saying that I no longer see her face when I look at you, Ravencrest said quietly. I see only you, Cordelia Ashvale, who noticed a forged seal and saved my life. Cordelia Ashvale, who stood beside me when she had every reason to run. Cordelia Ashvale, who is building peace with nothing but intelligence and courage. He cupped her face in his hands, cool as marble. I am saying that I love you, not because you remind me of the past, but because you are my present, my future, my partner. I am mortal, Cordelia whispered. I will age and die, and you will remain. Then I will love you for however long I have you, Ravencrest said. Whether that is 50 years or 5, I will not waste the time we have together mourning the time we will not. He leaned closer. But I need to know, Cordelia, do you feel the same? Or am I simply a means to an end, a protector you tolerate? Cordelia looked into his amber eyes and saw 3 lifetimes compressed into a single gaze, of loss, of hope deferred. She saw the man beneath the monster, the person who had chosen to build peace instead of wage war. And she realized that somewhere in the past 6 months, amid the letters and investigations and late-night strategy sessions, she had fallen in love with him. You are not a means to an end, she said softly. You are the end. You are what I want, what I choose, what I love. She reached up, touching his cold face. I love you, Ravencrest, not despite what you are, but including what you are. All of it. He kissed her then, his lips cold against hers, and she kissed him back with all the warmth she possessed. When they finally pulled apart, he was smiling. Partners, he murmured. Partners, she agreed. In everything. And in the library of Ravencrest House, surrounded by letters and plans and the promise of peace, they stood together, the immortal lord and the woman who had saved him, not with weapons or magic, but with nothing more than a keen eye and an honest heart.